In 5.3, we are going to be adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. We'll get to dividing later. It's a bit more complicated, so we're just going to start with these three operations and get to division later. Adding is very simple. All you have to do is combine like terms. So, in fact, I'm just going to write a plus right here where it says 2, because we're just adding those two polynomials together, and then we just combine like terms. So we'll look for things with an x cubed. So there's two things with x cubed. We can combine those together. 2x cubed plus x cubed is 3x cubed. Let's go down to x squared. There are two things with x squared, the negative 5x squared and the positive 6x squared. Negative 5 plus 6 is 1, so that's 1x squared. Then there's only one thing with an x, the 3x, so that will just copy down by itself. And then there are two things that don't have an x. The negative 9 and the 11. Together those make 2. So that is adding polynomials. Subtracting, we got to be a bit more careful. We're going to get to something like the first example. We're going to get to something where we just have to combine like terms, but in order to get there, we got to be careful about how we subtract these polynomials. So it says subtract this one underlined in orange from this one underlined in green. So if I say subtract 2 from 5, that means take 5 and subtract 2. So if I say subtract the orange polynomial from the green polynomial, we're going to take the green polynomial, 8x cubed minus x squared minus 5x plus 1, and we're going to subtract from that the orange one. And we need to make sure to put this in parentheses because we need to subtract the entire polynomial. So it's going to be very tempting to just write minus and then write the polynomial afterwards, but we need to subtract every piece of the polynomial, not just the first term. So we have to make sure to distribute that negative through the parentheses. It may help to think of that as being a negative 1 in front of it. So then we're going to have negative 1 times the 3x cubed. So that'll be negative 3x cubed. Negative 1 times 2x squared. That'll be negative 2x squared. Negative 1 times negative x is positive x. And then negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. So basically it just takes everything in the polynomial and flips the sign. All right, then I'll copy this down as is. And now we can just combine like terms. So once we've taken care of that subtraction, it's just combining like terms exactly as we did in the first example. So let's look for things with an x cubed. There's two things with an x cubed, 8x cubed and negative 3x cubed. Combine those together, we get 5x cubed. There are two things with an x squared. Together those make negative 3x squared. There are, let's see, I used red, let's go to blue. Hey, that's not blue. There we go. All right, negative 5x and x, those are the things with just an x to the first. Combine those together, we get negative 4x. And then the last one, without any x on it, the 1 and the negative 7, put those together and we get negative 6. Let's go on to multiplying. So we're basically going to be using the distributive property here. Let's take our x plus 3, put it in parentheses, and put that next to the 3x squared minus 2x plus 4. So again, we're just going to be distributing the x through the parentheses and the 3 through the parentheses. Once we do both of those, combine like terms. So let's take the x first. So x times 3x squared, that is 3x to the third. X times negative 2x is negative 2x squared. X times 4 is 4x. So now we've taken that x and distributed it through the second set of parentheses. So now we need to do the same thing to that 3. So 3 times the first one gives us 9x squared. 3 times the middle one gives us, that'll be negative 6x. Yeah, just negative 6x. Then 3 times the 4 gives 12. And then again, combine like terms. So there is one thing with an x cubed, nothing to combine that with. There are two things with x squared. That's going to give 7x squared. There are two things with an x, the 4x and the negative 6x. Put those together, we get negative 2x. And then there's only one thing without an x. So we'll write that down. Then when we have more than one polynomial to multiply together, in this case 3 binomials to multiply together, we're just going to take two of them and multiply those, and then once we get the answer for that, we'll multiply it by the third thing. So what I like to do is I will typically kind of write some bars here just to separate those out, and we'll take the x minus 5 and the x plus 1 and multiply those first. So in order to do this, we need to FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Remember, this is just a way to help you remember how to get every single piece that you need. But basically, we're just going to be taking that x in front and multiplying it through the second set of parentheses to each thing there. So for the first times first, that's x times x gives x squared. Then the other one I drew, x times 1, that's just x. So that's the first and the outers. Then I'll switch colors for the inners. Negative 5 times x gives negative 5x. And then negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Combine the two middle terms together and we'll get a new polynomial. So there's nothing to combine that x squared with, but we have the x and the negative 5x. We can put those together to get negative 4x. And then we have the minus 5 at the end. So we'll put some parentheses around those, and then put the x minus 3, just bring this thing down from up there. And now we can multiply these two things together, and that will give us the result here. Now I should note that you could have taken any two of these and multiplied them together. It wouldn't matter which two you use. Any two would do just fine. I just chose to do the first two, but it wouldn't matter if you want to do it differently. Okay, again, we're just going to take each thing in one set of parentheses and multiply it by each thing in the other set of parentheses. So we'll take the x squared, multiply it by x. That gives x cubed. May help to think of that as x to the first. So if we multiply x squared times x to the first, add those exponents together, and we get x to the third. X squared times 3 then gives 3x squared. So now that x squared has been distributed through the second set of parentheses. Let's take the middle term, the negative 4x. So negative 4x times x is negative 3x. Negative 4x times 3. Oh, I'm sorry, I messed that up. I was looking at the 3. So negative 4x times x should be negative 4x squared. Then we have the negative 4x times 3. That gives negative 12x. So now we've distributed the negative 4 through the second set of parentheses, and so we just need to do the same thing with 5, and that should give us the answer. So negative 5 times x gives negative 5x. Negative 5 times 3 gives negative 15. And now we just need to combine like terms. So there is only one thing with an x cubed, so I'll just write that down by itself. There are two things with an x squared, negative 4x squared and 3x squared. Put those together, we get negative x squared. There are two things with just an x, negative 12x and negative 5x. Put those together, we get negative 17x. And then that negative 15 has nothing to combine with, so we'll just write it down.